these things. Welcome to Chinwag. Never know how we're going to start, and Eddie was asking me, well, how's it going to be tonight? And I said, I'm not really sure, but I do know that whenever we do these events, people really connect to hearing other people's stories, and we were chatting. So we've never met before.
No, we haven't. I'm beginning to wish that we had it now.
No, it's good, man. It's all good.
Look, normally, I do chat. I've done chat shows on the radio. I've interviewed 400 or 500 people in my 30-year career, and I've never found myself speechless until this moment. So it's quite an odd experience. But anyway, there you go.
Well, maybe it'll get odder. Maybe it'll level out. I think it'll level out. You were saying earlier on that you started writing your autobiography.
Yeah.
And you were thinking of a starting point to this amazing experience, this amazing journey that you've been on and are still on.
Yeah, I mean, last year, around about, a little bit, probably at the end of February, I was diagnosed with throat cancer. So I thought, God, wouldn't it be a shame if you died and no one knew all the funny things that happened to you? So a few people said, look, you want to start writing a book about all the things you've done. And I couldn't really think of what to say, it's kind of like you don't know where to start a conversation like this. How do you start a book? And then a couple of months after I was diagnosed, but before I'd started the radio and chemotherapy, I was DJing in Belfast with David Holmes, and I bumped into an old friend of mine, and he said, why don't you start with the story about the night you nearly got executed by the IRA in 1982 in Crossmaglen? I thought, that'd be quite funny. So I did. So I literally sat down on the aeroplane and wrote a chapter about this amazing experience in 1982 where I found myself literally in bandit country and nearly came a cropper, unbeknownst to me at the time, but they were going to interview me with a hood over my head. And anyway, it's a kind of a long story. And if you want...
We've got however long it takes.
I might, all right, I will start with this because I've not really told this story before because I didn't know about it. Basically, when I was DJing in Belfast, I met my old friend who I stayed with on that trip in 1982, and he told me the last bit of the story. But the first bit is, I used to run a fanzine in the mod revival period, 1979. I started in 82. By 1982, I was kind of DJing all over the country at the time. I'd done Germany a couple of times, and I got a letter from Northern Ireland, and it was a young kid called David Holmes, or it was called Homer, who is now one of the world's top soundtrack men, right, yeah. But at the time was a 14-year-old mod boy. And his letter said, look, me and my mates, because mod was always really big in Northern Ireland, but it was a couple of years behind the rest of the country. He said, me and my mates have saved up our pocket money and our paper rounds, and we'd like you to come and DJ in Belfast. And I thought, great, what a great idea. So I went through my files. There's a couple of people who used to write to my fans in here tonight, actually. But
Richard Rasker over there.
But I went through my files, as you do, and I found a few people from Dublin, and I wrote to them. It's the days before internet and stuff. I wrote to them, and 3 weeks later I got back a letter saying, of course we'll put you on a gig in Dublin. So I thought, this is good. So I decided to drive on my scooter across Wales, get the ferry to Dublin, up to Belfast and back through Liverpool. So I thought that's a bit ambitious, but I'm going to do it. So I packed my records, and of course it's Easter. And at the time I didn't really know that much about Irish politics, not like I do now. I had kind of joined the Territorial Army for a period of time as a way of making a little bit of extra money when I was on the dole. And quite a lot of mods from East London joined the London Scottish Regiment, where we used to wear kilts and fly up to Scotland all the time. It was quite good fun, and you got paid for it, but I didn't really think anything of it. So I go, Easter comes round, on Easter, not so good Thursday, as they used to call it, the night before Good Friday, pack up my bike, I head over to Wales, it's raining, I get the ferry. The next morning, Good Friday morning, the Irish mods are there, they meet me, I go and dump all my stuff off round at Sean O'Gorman's house from the Emerald Society fanzine, and we go on the scooter run. So I say, where are we going on the scooter run? They go, we're going to the post office. Oh, that'll be nice, the post office. Why? Well, every Easter we commemorate the Rising and the Great Battle.
1916.
Yeah, and thousands of people go down there and we have a little march. And I'm thinking, oh, that'll be interesting. So I get down there, the first thing you see is the IRA part of the march and the Sinn Féin march. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's quite interesting. Not many people can say they've been on an IRA march, So we park the scooters up, have a walk about, and it's all lovely. I have a few pints of Guinness and a couple of people, there's bad feeling back in those days if they heard an English accent in Dublin. Sure. It's not like that now, but a few people go and fuck off, go and fuck off back to England. That kind of, not mods, but just general people in the pubs where I was drinking. So I thought, oh well, they've got reason to dislike the English, so fair enough. So I wave goodbye. That night I drive up to stay at my mate's house. I don't really know the name of the village. All I know is if I go to Castle Blaney, which is on the border, it's a mile and a half that way. So I drive up and it stopped raining and it's still light, and I arrive in the village and the village is called Crossmaglen. Now, as I drive into Crossmaglen, I notice there's a 20-foot steel wall surrounding a concrete block, which I thought, that's a bit odd, what's that? With some towers, steel towers, which look like mortar bomb protections on top of them. I thought, that's a bit odd, I wonder what that's doing there. So I go into the middle of town and I just park up my Vespa and I think I could do that, murder a pint of Guinness. So I started to walk across the square and I saw these men standing outside a pub, all drinking, about 30, 40 men, about 50 yards away across a big village square. And they've gone, I've seen them pointing, and then they've started running and I've looked behind me to see what they're running at and I've realised it's me. And I'm thinking, well, I was only going to ask where his house is, and I've realised I'm now in a little bit of trouble here. Shit. Thank God it wasn't a Lambretta because it wouldn't have started. But I jumped back on the Vespa, kicked it, started first time, thank you God, and left these men chasing me down the road, like one holding a chair, throwing bottles. I thought, shit, this is quite a hairy situation. I don't really know anyone in this village and I'm in the middle of nowhere. I know I'll drive to that big steel police station that I just passed by. So I drive in there, I bang on this kind of convoluted glass three-way door, and I'm banging on the door going, shut the fucking gate, there's some men chasing me down the road. And the next thing I know, it's step away from the door. Man with a fucking gun comes out, a soldier, RUC, points a gun at me and says, lie on the floor. And I'm going, no, you don't understand, you've got to shut the gate. There's like 30 men running down with sticks. So suddenly this whole army thing swings into action and they shut the gates. These massive concrete steel things, 30 feet high, and people are shouting, you can hear them shouting outside the army, the police thing. I'm now starting to shit my pants. So the sergeant comes out finally of the glass, right, stand up. So I stand up. He goes, do you think you're some kind of fucking idiot? And I said, well, what are you talking about? He goes, do you know where you are? I said, well, no, I'm just looking for a little village called Crossmaglen. And he said, so let me get this right. This is Easter, right, and you're driving that, which has a Union Jack on the fly screen in the heart of bandit country. Do you know what they would have done if they'd have caught you? They would have killed you. I don't mean fuck about, they actually would have killed you. And I went, really? So he goes, right, the first thing we're going to do, you stupid twat, is take the Union Jack off your fly screen. So that was quite embarrassing. He goes, where are you staying? And I gave him the... So, thank God for that. I survived that little escapade. So then I go and stay at my friend's house. We shall call him Michael. And we go to the pub. And we go to the pub and it all passes. Everyone's very friendly and I get a little bit pissed and, hey, aren't you lovely, you Irish people? Yeah, anyway, so the next morning, come on, get up, we're going to church. Well, at 8 in the morning, I don't really do church, you know what I mean? Just get up, we're going to church. Next thing I know, I'm on church parade, men in black polo necks, berets and balaclavas in full combat uniforms marching to church with the active service unit flags of the IRA, and they've said to me, just don't say anything, don't open your mouth. If anyone speaks to you, pretend you're mute. I'm like, fucking hell, this is now really fucking serious. I am actually really terrified now. Yeah. So we go to church and there's the whole kind of marching around and everything, and I'm thinking, Crossmaglen, I know that. Oh God, now I know where I am. Yeah. This is South Omagh Bandit country, and it's quite serious. So anyway, so I escape and I get away. I wave goodbye to the lovely family and say goodbye to Michael and his brothers and his mum and dad, and everything's good. And then I get to Belfast, And almost exactly the same thing happens. I go to the gig with David Holmes, I stay at David Holmes's, everything's fantastic. I do a great set at the Abercorn, which sadly 18 months later was blown up and a lot of people died. And we forget about all this stuff about Northern Ireland, you know. I know it was only a generation ago, but it was pretty fucking bad. Later on in the afternoon, we go on a little scooter ride out, and then I find myself in the middle of an orange parade. So I am the only English mod that has been on an IRA march at the post office on Good Friday, drunk in a pub in Crossmaglen with an active service unit of the IRA, and then been on an orange march on Bank Holiday Monday. So I'm like, so I go home. Anyway, the addendum, the punchline to this story, if you like, is that I thought that's a weird experience. And then last year, I bumped into my friend at this gig that I was doing with David Holmes almost 30 years, you know, later, when we did the first gig, 31 years later. And he said, why didn't you tell me you were in the TA, you fucking idiot? And I said, well, what difference does it make? It was just I was earning a bit of money on the dole. You know, we got £500 a year for going to 6 weekends. And he went, yeah, you don't really know what happened in that pub, do you? I said, well, no. What happened? He said, well, the leader of the South Armagh Active Service Unit came up to my father, who has been in that village his whole life, and said, why do you have an Englishman in this pub today? And he said, don't worry, he's my cousin. He's from London. I'm not so sure he is your cousin. I think we're going to take him around the corner and ask him a few questions. Now, unbeknownst to me, taking him around the corner and asking him a few questions is putting a hood over his head and taking him around the corner and asking him a few questions. And obviously, if they had have done that, fortunately, they were persuaded not to do that, and they accepted my friend's father's and uncle's word, who were known to them. They would have, in asking their questions, discovered that I was a British soldier, even like the Cubs. It was still regarded in Ireland as a soldier, of course, and they would have shot me in the head. So I took that kind of, wow, that's a bit fucking mental. And then I said to Michael, what happened to those guys? He said, well, all 4 of that particular active service unit that were in the pub that night died on active service over the next year and a half. So there are no other witnesses to your weekend other than me and my, you know, family. No one else knew you were there. And it's like, fucking hell. So when he actually told me that, that kind of dropped on my head like a ton of bricks, I thought, do you know what? I probably should write a book, and I probably should start it with that, the night that I nearly didn't make it past 1982. Because we've kind of grown up with the peace process over the last 20 years, and people kind of have forgotten, especially people on the mainland, have forgotten what it was like in Ireland. You know, and I'm not a religious person, you know, and it's just too mental. There was a civil war in this country only 20 years ago. And it might come back, so let's just hope it doesn't.